So I am just on the BJJ Fanatics website, and what's amazing is now we've already talked about Gravity is Your Friend, but there are 2 other instructionals that you might want to talk about.
Recently, I had the opportunity to work with BJJ Fanatics guy, and now we have 3 instructionals out there. We have Escapes Engineered for guys over 40. If you're 40 or more, hey, dig into it. Gravity's Your Friend, sit-up sweeps. Been there for some time, and is really, really getting a lot of attention. And then we have the Smash the Knee Folding Pass. Now, that's one of my favorites. So if you haven't looked at them, take a look. BJJfanatics.com.
Hey, I'm wondering, do you have a place where we could go to ask all those questions that always come up in jiu-jitsu?
You are lucky. You are very, very lucky. Ask a Black Belt on all podcast platforms, plus our YouTube channel. What I do is essentially I collect questions that you might have and the questions that I've had for all this time being on the mat and record them as a short individual episodes, about 3-4 minutes long, and just put them out there several times a week. So make sure you go, you follow, and tune in.
Yeah, absolutely. Check it out. Subscribe, download, all that stuff, and get those answers to the questions you've always wanted to ask.
Welcome to Raw Radio.
And we're live.
Here we go again.
All right.
Uh-huh.
I'm glad to be formally be announced as a second best looking guy
In jiu-jitsu?
in jiu-jitsu.
Or just roll radio history?
Well, that would make you the best looking. And
No, I said history. So,
oh.
I mean, I'm including everybody in
Oh,
there.
you
We've even
include-
had guests who were actually professional models. So
Yeah,
for you to
true.
be the second,
that sets the
second
bar
best,
pretty high
yeah,
up.
it does, doesn't it? It's also a lot of baloney, but that's okay. It's okay. That's all right. So
What a fun conversation.
It was
with
a good
Alex.
one, wasn't it?
It's we've talked about these us setting expectations for these conversations, and they often don't go to what we expect. And I honestly I stopped setting for myself like these expectations a while back, and kind of having this free flowing attitude of we'll just talk and. But again, yesterday I was so pleasantly surprised. Like, what a pleasure to chatting with Alex, and what an amazing story of travel and passion and him starting new academy and it's just what a drive.
Yeah, and it's funny if you look at his history, you might think, wow, he got to where he is pretty quick. But it actually took him a long time to get there, to even really get started, like a good foundation, where he was going to be training.
Stop moving your mic.
I couldn't help it. I'm trying to be more like you. If I can't be as good looking, I mean, at least, and I'm going to do this too. Sorry, listeners. You don't get to hear that. I edit that out, but there's a lot of in between each sentence.
That's the zen. That's the zen of
no,
podcasting.
that's the allergies and the sinuses is what that is.
By the way, my allergies didn't kick in yet, so
Good.
I'm not. This is the good season.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
yeah, Alex is a great guy, and just to finish up what we were talking about the expectations of episodes, I listened to other things he's done, and I just didn't realize what a great sense of humor he had and how gregarious he was going to be, and not. I was expecting him to be very dry, and it went in a different direction. So it's great. It was a lot of fun.
yeah, no, it definitely, great sense of humor and the passion really hit me hard. Like it from early on, there was a plan. There was, no matter what happens, and I don't know if that. Sources from, I'm sure something has to do with the cultural and where he was born and just Europe or Ukraine in general, or just how he was brought up and all that. But what a passion and drive to achieve a goal.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what, he moved multiple times and, visited different countries and lived in different places and all with one goal to have an academy and be and be teaching jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, and he just opened up his first place.
Yeah.
So it's awesome.
So what was your big pivot point? What was your takeaway for that conversation?
Well, he talked a lot, or it came up on a few occasions, about systems. And there was one thing he said in particular where he talked about systems, art, and sport. And it kind of broke it, down a little bit. And it reminded me of what Chris Howder said about his triangle, not the position, but, you have the art, you have the sport, and I think it's a great way to look at different aspects of jiu-jitsu, and for the people who don't compete, really, you have the systems, which I think is like the beginning stages. You're just learning the positions and then linking them together, moves, A, B, C, D. And then once you get that down and it, at a certain level, it starts becoming more free flowing and it turns into your own art. It's an art within itself, but then you can make it your own as well.
Yeah. Where is it for you? Where are you at? Do you see this as a system fighting system? Do you see this
somewhere
as a life art style kind of thing, or is it more of a sport aspect to it?
No, for me, it's more of self-defense, and then the beginning stages, very beginning stages of art, where it's like, okay, I know I need to be here, here, and here. Well, I can link those things together now on my own a little bit, with my own interpretation almost of how to get there. This doesn't work for me, but if I modify it just a little bit, oh, look at that. We talked a few times with different people about like aha moments, and it's like, oh yes, I don't have to do it exactly the way it was instructed. Now I know how to do it exactly the way it's instructed, but how can I interpret it a little bit different to make it more effective for me?
What do you want it to be in the future? What's your goal? Let's just hypothetically say you're still alive 10 years from now.
When I'm 85.
Where do you want? Where would you envision this journey to go?
It's really, honestly, I just want to keep it at it, be in it. I want my kids to still be involved in it. So I guess instructing more, right now, kids coach. I have on occasion when there was nobody else available, had to teach a room full of adults who were even not only better, but higher ranking and stuff. But headed in that direction and really just be like satisfied with like, progression, I guess. Like I'm still moving forward. This is fun. And even though I'm getting older and blah, 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 and all that stuff that brings into it, it's like I'm still progressing. The knowledge, I'm gaining knowledge, and like how many times have we talked about it with different people or just you and I, where it's like, you need to know all these things. You need to know these positions. You need to know these systems, even though you can't do it. You need to know it. You need to know it to be able to maneuver through it, to defend yourself from it, to find nuggets that you can apply to yourself and use. So just to continue forward in that path and still be alive. Ever
end to it?
No, how many times have we talked about an end to it?
No, I'm asking for you. Like, are you envisioning this to end at some point, or
it will at some point. I don't know how. Is it going to be that I'm so old and
cranky?
Yeah. Is it going to be that I'm, I just something happens physically? Who knows? Yeah, there will be an end to it. Who knows how? Or there won't be, and I'll be 70. I'll really be 75, and I'll get sick, and
me.
Well, that happened a long time ago. That happened I'm not at a 5. I haven't known you since any of my 5s, but we're coming up on 1. Where was I? I'll end before the jiu-jitsu ends. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'll expire before it does. The place will still be here and my kids will still be training and I'll still be having a little bit of fun doing it. And then somebody will call for the AED. There'll be no electrical activity.
You're being very dramatic right now. You're being very dramatic right now.
It's got hot, I'd rather go that way. Not necessarily on the mats, but quicker.
What's the biggest differences for you between the system, art, and sport? Like, how would you define
the system is the steps, the gaining of the fundamentals. The art is taking those and making them your own, exploring them, changing them for yourself or for others. And then the sport is the, whatever rule set. So I don't compete, but there's a rule set during open mat, so the sport is, what do I need to do during those 5-7 minutes, within the rules of engagement that we have here during open mat, it's pretty free flowing here. I mean, we have a culture where it's like, if you're going to muffle me, I'm going to be really upset with you. We don't do it. We don't do a lot of that type of stuff here. So you take that into consideration. If I'm frustrated, I can't lash out. The way I make myself unfrustrated is to do something correctly to get myself out of this frustrating situation. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to crank something. I'm not going to put my forearm down on your Adam's apple because of whatever position I'm in. I got to be better.
Are you speaking from your own experience?
I am. We've had a lot of people come through
will
here.
Remain nameless.
Yeah. It's mostly people that are gone. Because that culture doesn't exist here. But, so what were you asking? The three different aspects,
the differences
right?
between,
and I think I encompassed those.
One of the things that Alex mentioned through this conversation kind of links to what we are talking about, especially from the sport aspect, is he said he made a very strong statement, and let's listen to the whole episode to really get the context here. But he did say jiu-jitsu is not an exercise, mm-hmm. and where we train is not a gym. Right. What's your vision on this? What's how do you envision this facility? How do you envision what we do?
I don't know. That's a pretty wide open question. Is it a gym where you just pay a membership and you go and work out a little bit, to exercise? I think because of how jiu-jitsu is in and of itself, it can be. I think it can also be a place where you go to really learn something and master, quote unquote, master mm-hmm. something.
Yeah.
So I think it can be both. Your instructor, the owners, they kind of set a loose culture. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So that those people can exist within it. But it's not, if you're only coming here to get a little bit of exercise and you're not going to progress, you're going to stay in fundamentals class. We have a lot of people here who, we go through like these peaks and valleys where it's like, oh, I got my second stripe, I'm going to open mat, and I got my fourth and I'm going to sport. And then you have other people that got their fourth, they got their blue belts.
We have some people
and they just hang out in fundamentals and they don't care about that other stuff. They're happy, they're content, and that's fine. That's wonderful. If that keeps them coming and keeps them learning and keeps their enjoyment in jiu-jitsu, that's wonderful. I really think there's a place for those people. And then there's also a place for the other people that are like really driven to be, to gain as much knowledge about jiu-jitsu as they possibly can. And that moves them up in, the physical nature of it, of, learning more, being able to apply it.
That's the beauty behind jiu-jitsu, I think, that is so versatile and so diverse as far as what you can learn and how you can learn between different places to different programs to different classes, that I truly believe that everybody can find something for them that would stimulate them. I think.
Yeah. It might not be in one. It might not be in the first place you walk through the door. You might have to try out different places, but you can find it.
Just like it might not be in the first program or the first class you step into. I think, really going through the experience and investing time into it by yourself, and putting the effort into yourself, I should say, and finding where you can stimulate yourself the most, because ultimately that's what we're doing. We stimulate our mind, we stimulate our body. And it is what it is while we're creating friends and relationships and, sweating in each other's faces. And
Yeah.
well, I mean, it's unfortunately, it's part of it.
It is.
Right?
Or getting somebody's hair in your mouth. It's long hairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is wonderful. It could also at some point, maybe we've talked about this, where you lose the traditions of it, and because it is so free flowing that I think if you look at how much it's changed in the past 20 years, and I'm not talking technique, I'm talking the culture of it.
Yeah.
In 20 years from now, will we recognize it? Will there be? I'm sure there'll still be schools where you bow in, bow out. Belts are important. Requirements are important. But there'll be a lot more places where you walk in, you walk on the mat, classes we're having this class from 1 to 3 and you show up at 1:45 and walk on the mat and people are fine with that because that's what time you can make it. And
listen, in my mind, it's part of evolution of life. Not necessarily evolution of jiu-jitsu, but just evolution of life. We, as humans, we change, we adjust, we introduce new things, But two, I think as the sport continues growing, it's being viewed as business. And in order for business to exist, it needs to cater to a specific demographic of people. And just like there are academies who will have black spats, black rash guards, and white gis only, there are academies that you can wear all kinds of rainbow colors and you don't even need your pants on. And that's fine too, because that caters towards a very specific demographic. There are academies where you bow in, bow out when you step on the mat. You shake hands with your instructors. You call them sir, professor, sensei, whatever it is. And you have other academy that, you can drop F-bombs and say, yo, what's up, man? And that's fine too. That's just different culture that caters towards that specific demographic. I know you have a smartest comment because you smiled.
No.
But, I think, as this sport, art, business opportunity grows, these places will start surfacing more because people notice that there's a demographic that's being uncatered. And if I create that environment, and so it happens that I like that environment, people will appreciate it and they will come and train.
Do you create the environment? That can even fall into the system category. Mm-hmm. But do you create that knowing it's out there, or is that you and you're opening the doors for like-minded people?
Well, I think it's
there's a market for this, so I'm going to change to be that. Or is it, I'm going to open my doors and I know there's already people like me.
I think it could be common. This could be argued both ways, I think, because I know specifically of businesses who change their rules to target to a specific demographic. Mm-hmm. But I also know, listen, a lot of this, we're talking about leadership now. So a lot of this surfaces from top down, right? Whoever the instructors, the owners, the head instructor, the teacher, the coach, whoever that person is, doesn't have to be even jiu-jitsu. You look at judo, wrestling, checkers, or swimming. It's all the same thing. Whatever happens within that facility, it starts from the top. How is that culture presented? Now, is that by design? Okay. If it's not by design, then very likely whoever's on top is supporting that culture, and it's probably something that they enjoy. That's how it's done, I think, most of the time. However, I've seen places where specific rules have been put in place to create a specific presentation, specific perception to the outside world, with a specific goal of, generating revenue or bringing people in or whatever the goal was, But yeah, it all has to start on top. It has to. Otherwise, it will collapse.
When you started, was it a system? Were you not allowed? We've talked about this in the past a little bit, where it seemed like it was very structured. Where this is what you're learning. This is what I teach. Mm-hmm. Don't deviate. You can't do that. Mm-hmm. So was there the art not part of that environment? The sport was.
Rephrase.
So you had
You're talking about here, right?
No, I'm talking about when you started
Oh,
with Carlson Senior.
You're talking
Yeah,
about
way back.
way back in the day. Okay.
So you go in, Carlson is only teaching you. You said you had a few moves and you just drilled the hell out of them constantly, and then you had the sport where you would go and compete.
Mm-hmm.
In the middle of what we're talking about today is the art.
Mm-hmm.
Was that available to you to pursue back then?
I actually think that different way. I think the art was very present. The system wasn't. I think because of the cultural, because of the historical, because of the lineage, because Carson Senior was there almost every single class. The presence of the guy who was pioneer of all this, that what's created that art feeling. You were a martial artist. You wanted to be a martial artist.
Yeah, but if he saw you adjusting your grip differently than the way he showed you,
Yeah.
was there
I think there was a system behind it. I think I think what separates it, now we're going back to that, but I think what the differential between system and the art is the cultural aspect. So in my mind, something that we would call a system would be something that, was created from multiple other fighting styles, something that doesn't necessarily has a deep historical roots, something that was created for entertainment purposes, something that works, no question, but it was created, not necessarily passed on, if you will. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I would look at a system. Now, art is something that is more of a lifestyle, something that is embedded into a culture of a group, something that is carried on and passed on from generation to generation. And back in the day, I think even though the quote unquote system had to exist, it still does to this point because you have to learn specific things. I think in my mind, it was more of as an art. You were a martial artist. You were a jiu-jitsu player. You were part of a team. You embraced these things. You were proud of it. There was a sense of belonging, if you will, to the group of people. Everybody had their backs and things of that nature. Versus in the system, I think some of those things are a little bit, there's more gray area, if you will, and some of them are undefined with the purpose of making the system successful.
Well, and I think maybe our definition of art is a little different,
Yeah,
right? I mean, I get it. It's a martial art, that big umbrella that we grew up with, even as kids.
Yeah.
Where the other interpretation is what you find within it that you can make your own.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I think we have different interpretation of it, but to answer your question, the cultural aspect was very, very strong, which now, I think a lot of it has disappeared already, I think, over the last 20 plus years, it has disappeared. And I think it will continue disappearing. And truthfully, it's up to us. That's what it is. It's really up to us, whether this will fade out, fade away, or it will continue on. And in some cases, it will fade away. Some cases, it will, by design. And in some, it won't. And I think that's the beauty.
That's by design, too.
That's the beauty of the art, right? This is what we'll see how this all unfolds in the next 10 years or 10, 20 years.
If I'm still around, right?
Well, I'm not anticipating for this podcast to stay around for 20 years. So
no, I'm talking about me personally.
Oh, you
being alive, like you said at the beginning of this. If I'm still alive.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
All right, I got some living to do today. So
what's this? Is the longest takeaway ever?
I don't know. Let the listeners decide.
Later.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to Raw Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.